Welcome to Revisit Books podcast, where we turn books into bite-sized wisdom you can use every day. Today, we're tackling something pretty ambitious. A book that tries to give us, well, a map for navigating life, which is a huge undertaking.
It really is. And it's fascinating because the book, it kind of grew out of something simpler, a collection of life rules, really. It started from a question online, something like, what are the most valuable things everyone should know?
Right, I remember that list. It covered everything from, standing up straight to dealing with resentment, and it just exploded.
Exactly, which suggests people are, well, hungry for this kind of structure, this kind of wisdom, especially now.
And the author himself is quite interesting. He manages to be deeply academic, former Harvard professor, right?
Right.
But also really accessible.
Yeah, he has this way of explaining complex ideas with, like, genuine enthusiasm, almost like
Yeah.
a kid showing you something cool they found.
Yeah, none of that academic jargon or talking down to you.
No, he avoids that completely. And his core mission, I think, is incredibly relevant. It's about how to live properly despite suffering. He really pushes back against the idea that life is just about chasing happiness.
Because happiness is fleeting or easily destroyed.
Well, yeah, think about it. Illness, loss, betrayal,
Yeah.
these things happen. They're part of life. If happiness is your only goal, you're setting yourself up for failure.
So instead, he focuses on what? Building character, finding meaning.
Exactly that.
Huh.
Developing character, seeking a deeper meaning that can withstand the tragedies. That's the core aim.
Okay, so let's talk about the foundation here. It's not just pop psychology. He pulls from everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly broad. You've got evolution, neuroscience, psychology, clinical practice.
And then the big thinkers too, right? Jung, Freud, Nietzsche.
Dostoevsky, Solzhenitsyn, I mean, the list goes on. It's a massive synthesis.
How does someone even begin to weave all that together into practical advice? That sounds incredibly complex.
Well, it builds heavily on his earlier work, Maps of Meaning, which was, frankly, a very dense academic book.
Okay.
But that book laid the groundwork. It showed how ancient stories, myths, religious texts, you name it, aren't just random tales. They survived because they contain universal truths.
Truths about what specifically?
About how to deal with the unknown, with uncertainty. Think about, like, the hero myths, the dragon myths. They're psychological blueprints for survival.
So stories from completely different cultures, Sumerian epics, the Bible, they're hitting on the same fundamental human problem.
That's the idea. And the absolute core task, the one that underlies everything, is moving from chaos to order.
Chaos and order. Okay, unpack that a bit.
It's not just a philosophical idea. He argues it's biological, rooted in our oldest brain structures. We're wired to seek the predictable, the known, that's order.
Like routines, stability, society.
Right. But we also have to navigate the new, the unexpected, the unknown, that's chaos. And this constant negotiation between the two, that's the fundamental challenge of life.
So these rules in the book aren't just his opinion. They're based on what works for navigating that chaos order reality.
Exactly. They're grounded in the requirements for, well, successful human existence over millennia.
Okay, if this wisdom is so fundamental, so ancient, why does it feel like we need it so urgently now? What's the modern problem he's addressing?
I think he sees a real crisis of intellectual and moral neglect. We've kind of bought into this idea of relativism for a few generations now.
Meaning like everything's just an opinion, there's no real right or wrong.
Pretty much. The very idea of teaching virtue or practical wisdom has become devalued. If morality is just a personal preference, how do you teach your kids resilience?
Yeah.
Or nobility? You can't, really.
And what does that do to people psychologically, living in that kind of vacuum?
It leads to, well, two bad outcomes, generally. On one side, you get this sort of paralyzing uncertainty. The relativist who thinks, well, if nothing's definitively right, I can't really act, I definitely can't judge, so they just freeze. Anxiety in action.
Okay. And the other side?
The ideologue. The person who rushes in to fill the vacuum with absolute certainty, hyper-judgmental, convinced they know exactly how the world should work and how everyone else needs to change.
They swap real morality for rigid rules.
Yeah, a simplistic, often dangerous certainty. It's a reaction against the uncertainty, but it's just as problematic.
So the book is trying to carve out a path between that anything goes paralysis and the my way or the highway ideology.
That's precisely it. Look, the ancients weren't shocked when they found different cultures had different rules. They didn't collapse into relativism.
What did they do?
They used those differences to understand human existence more deeply. They saw, like Aristotle pointed out, that while the specific rules might change how you bury the dead, say the impulse to create moral codes, that's universal. It's biological.
So the search for the good or for virtue is hardwired.
He argues it is.
Yep.
And the modern idea that you can somehow separate life from moral considerations, it's not just wrong, it's dangerous. It leads us astray.
Okay, that makes sense. So thinking about who this book is really for, if someone's listening, how do they know if this is the kind of guidance they might need right now?
Well, I think it speaks directly to anyone feeling lost in that modern relativism we talked about. If you're struggling with the no right or wrong idea, if you feel like you just weren't taught how to live a virtuous life,
Yeah.
this offers a foundation.
It's for the seeker of structure and chaos, as you put it.
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it. And it's also definitely for people who aren't trying to run away from suffering.
People who accept that life involves pain.
Exactly. People who recognize that, serious challenges, illness, betrayal, death are inevitable. They're looking for a system of values strong enough to stand up against that horror.
Because without that, you risk falling into nihilism.
Right, the feeling that it's all meaningless, hopelessness, despair. The book is really an antidote to that. It argues meaning is possible, even necessary, to justify the suffering.
And it seems like it would appeal to people who like seeing connections, the way he pulls from evolution and mythology, for instance.
Definitely. If you appreciate someone doing the hard work of synthesizing really diverse fields, biology, psychology, history, myth, into something understandable and actionable, then yeah, this is for you. It's like an intellectual shortcut.
But there's a catch, isn't there? A requirement.
There is, and it's maybe the most important one. This is for people who are ready to take radical personal responsibility.
What does that mean in this context?
It means accepting the idea that often, maybe always, external problems, losing your job, a relationship failing, even bigger societal issues are made worse, or even caused by our own internal failing.
Our own sins, willful blindness. That sounds harsh.
It is challenging,
Uh-huh.
but the argument is, if you're willing to look at that possibility, willing to, clean up your own act, first metaphorically clean your room before trying to fix the world, then this will resonate.
That's a big mental shift, away from blaming the world and towards demanding more from ourselves.
Absolutely. And the promise isn't some perfect world. It's about finding sufficient meaning within yourself.
So it's a path away from just following the crowd, but also away from despairing nihilism.
Yes. Meaning is found in your own consciousness, your own choices, your voluntary actions. Right there, inside you, no matter what's happening outside.
Okay, let's dive into some of the key takeaways. This is where the theory really becomes practical. And we probably have to start with the lobsters, right?
We absolutely have to start with lobsters. It's maybe the most famous part of the book, and for good reason.
Why lobsters? What do they teach us?
They provide this incredible biological grounding for the idea of the dominance hierarchy. It shows that striving for status, for position, isn't some modern invention of capitalism or whatever. It's ancient.
How ancient are we talking?
Like 500 million years ancient.
Yeah.
Older than trees. We were figuring out who's on top long before we had complex societies, even before we had bones or skin like we do now.
Wow. So our concern with status, respect, where we fit in, that's really, really deep.
It's a fundamental, near-eternal part of the environment we evolved in. It's not going away.
And there's a chemical basis for this in the lobsters.
Yes, and it's surprisingly elegant. It involves the ratio of two chemicals, serotonin and octopamine.
Okay.
When a lobster wins a fight over territory, say its serotonin levels go up relative to octopamine, and that changes its posture. It stands up taller, looks more confident, physically bigger, ready for the next challenge.
So winning literally puffs you up
Yeah.
chemically. What about losing?
The opposite happens. Serotonin plummets. The lobster physically shrinks, looks defeated, hunched over. Its nervous system goes into high alert, burning energy, preparing for danger.
It sounds stressful.
Extremely.
Great.
And here's the really wild part. If a dominant lobster suffers a really crushing defeat, its brain can actually dissolve and then regrow into a subordinate's brain.
Wait, really? Dissolve?
Essentially, yes.
Wow.
You can't handle the massive status shift neurologically without a complete reset. It's mind-blowing.
That's quite a metaphor for what happens to humans after a major failure. Maybe not literally dissolving, but that feeling of needing to rebuild yourself from the ground up.
Exactly. And the link becomes undeniable when you look at medication. The same drugs we use to treat depression in humans, SSRIs, which boosts serotonin, they actually cheer up defeated lobsters.
No way.
Yes. They make the lobsters adopt that confident, dominant posture again. It shows this basic brain chemistry for handling hierarchy, And stress is incredibly ancient, shared across species.
So what's the implication for us listening right now?
It's huge. Low status, which correlates with low serotonin activity, isn't just about feelings. It's linked to less confidence, more anxiety, more physical illness, even a shorter lifespan. And that holds true even if your basic material needs are met.
So being lower on the ladder makes your body constantly stressed.
Your nervous system is always on edge, always preparing for an emergency it thinks is coming. Higher status provides a kind of neurological buffer against suffering.
Which leads to the question,
How do you improve your position? How do you stand up straighter, metaphorically and literally, without becoming a tyrant or resorting to deceit? That requires getting your own internal house in order.
right, that internal order, which connects perfectly to the next big idea, doesn't it? This underlying worldview of chaos and order.
Yes, this eternal duality. The Taoist symbol of yin and yang captures it beautifully. Reality is always made of these two interacting forces.
So order is the known, the stable.
Order yang, often linked with masculine.
Mm.
Light is the territory you understand, its structure, society, your routines, predictability. Culture itself, your comfort zone.
And chaos, that's the scary stuff.
Chaos yin, often feminine, dark is the unknown. It's nature, unpredictability, destruction, but also creation and potential.
So like getting fired is chaos, a sudden illness.
Exactly. Or even just encountering a new idea that shatters your current understanding. It's disruptive, terrifying, but it's also where novelty comes from.
Okay, so if order is safe but static, and chaos is dangerous but full of potential, where should we aim to be?
Not entirely in one or the other. The meaningful path, the divine way, the hero's journey in myths lies right on the border between them.
On the edge.
Precisely. That place where you're stable enough, grounded in enough order, but you're also exploring, encountering enough chaos to learn, adapt, and grow.
And you can feel when you're there.
That's the argument. That feeling of being intensely engaged when time flies, when you feel fully alive. That's your deepest self telling you you're on that optimal edge. You're balancing stability and growth.
That really pushes against our modern tendency to want maximum safety, right? To eliminate all risk.
Completely. He uses the Garden of Eden story as an example. Adam and Eve were in perfect order, total safety.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough. The serpent chaos, the unknown, had to enter.
Why? Why wasn't paradise enough?
Because, the argument goes, trying to create a completely walled-off, risk-free existence leads to, well, permanent human infantilism. If you never face challenges, never risk failure, how do you develop competence, resilience, mastery?
You need the challenges to grow strong.
You need to confront the chaos to expand the domain of order. That's the purpose of consciousness. In this view, we are the mediators.
We take the unknown and make it known, habitable.
Yes, but, and this is crucial, you can only do that effectively if you're being honest. Honest with yourself, honest with others about what's orderly and what's chaotic. You can't mediate if you're lying.
Which brings us to the next point about truth. Okay, so this is where it gets very practical. Speak precisely and stop doing things you know are wrong. Let's start with the life lie. What is that?
The life lie. It's when you actively twist reality with your thoughts or your words to force a specific outcome you want. To pretend things are a certain way when you know they aren't.
Why would someone do that?
It comes from a kind of arrogance, really. The assumption that you know best, that your current understanding is enough, and that reality itself, if you just let it be, would be too awful to handle.
So like the person miserable in their job but telling everyone it's fine, really. Because admitting the truth means facing the chaos of finding a new one.
That's a classic example. Or staying in a dead relationship, using silence or avoidance to maintain this illusion of harmony. It's building your life on a foundation of lies.
And that doesn't work long term.
Never. Reality always wins. The way out, he argues, is radical honesty. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. If you don't know what else to do, just tell the truth about the situation, even if the truth is, I don't know what to do.
And the emphasis on precise speech. Why is that so important? Not just general honesty.
Because vague language is often a tool of the life lie. It keeps things fuzzy, allows problems to remain undefined and therefore unsolvable. Things are bad doesn't help.
But being precise.
Precise speech like, I am unhappy because I waste 3 hours on my phone instead of working on my project. That defines the problem. It brings it out of the overwhelming chaos into manageable order. You name the dragon so you can fight it.
Okay, but what about big problems like societal lies, corruption, tyranny out there in the world? Shouldn't we focus on fixing that first?
That's the counter-argument he makes. Tyranny thrives on lies, yes, but it feeds most readily on your own lies. Your own silence, your own self-deception.
How so?
That resentment that builds up when you don't speak your truth, when you let things slide that you know are wrong, that bitterness, that desire for destruction, it signals that tyranny is already taking root inside you.
So you can't fight the external battle effectively if you're internally compromised.
How could you? Standing up to a small injustice, truthfully, early on, that's how you limit chaos. But that courage, that truthfulness, has to start with you.
Which leads to personal atonement, cleaning your own house first.
Yes, before you try to reorganize the world, order your own experience. And the simplest, most direct way to start, stop doing one thing you know is wrong.
Just one thing. And don't overthink why it's wrong.
Exactly. If you know deep down that gossiping maliciously or cheating on your taxes or constantly putting things off is wrong, just stop doing it. Trust that your being, your body, your intuition knows more than your conscious mind can articulate.
What happens when you stop?
You stop poisoning your own consciousness with deceit. You clear out some noise. Your head gets clearer. And often, better solutions, better ways forward start to emerge naturally.
Okay, so cleaning up your internal world. That leads, surprisingly maybe, to the next idea. The moral obligation of self-care. It feels a bit contradictory to focus on suffering, but also be nice to yourself.
It does seem paradoxical at first glance, but he starts with this really stark observation. People are often much better at looking after their pets than themselves.
How does he illustrate that?
The example of organ transplant patients is striking. Some people get a life-saving organ, but then fail to consistently take the anti-rejection meds needed to keep it. It's baffling.
Yet they'd never forget their dog's medication.
Right, which points to this deep-seated lack of self-respect, maybe even self-contempt, that many of us carry.
Why do we feel that way about ourselves? Because we know our own flaws too well.
That's part of it. We're acutely aware of our own laziness, our failures, our darker impulses. But the argument here is that this contempt needs to be balanced with respect.
Why? Why do we have to respect ourselves?
Because you have a moral obligation to care for yourself. Not because you're perfect, but because you have a vital role to play. You're a node in the network of being. Your failure, your suffering, diminishes the world.
So taking care of yourself, eating properly, getting enough sleep, taking necessary medicine isn't selfish.
It's the opposite. It's a fundamental responsibility.
Yeah.
You have to treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping, someone you value, because you are valuable to the structure of reality.
Okay, I accept the responsibility, but I'm also lazy and complicated. How do I actually do it?
Exactly.
Oh.
You can't just issue commands to yourself like a drill sergeant. You're too complex for that. You have to negotiate.
Negotiate with myself, like making a deal.
Pretty much. You have to ask yourself, honestly, okay, self, what's something beneficial I could do that I would actually do that would make today just a little bit better?
Keep it small, keep it achievable.
Very small. Maybe it's just doing the dishes, or clearing one cluttered surface, or making that phone call you've been avoiding. Something you will do, not just should do.
And then?
Then you promise yourself a reward,
Yeah.
something specific, something you actually want, that you get only if you do the thing.
Like a little dopamine hit for good behavior.
Exactly. You do the small task, even if imperfectly. Then you give yourself the agreed-upon reward, that cup of coffee, that episode of a show, whatever it is. You're literally training yourself, reinforcing the positive action.
And this builds over time.
It's like compound interest for your soul. Each tiny win raises your baseline of competence and self-respect just a fraction. Do that consistently day after day, and over months and years, your capacity grows exponentially. Your life can transform.
Okay, wrapping things up. All these ideas, hierarchy, chaos and order, truth, self-care, seem to circle back to one central concept, the power of aim.
Absolutely.
Yep.
What you aim at literally determines what you see. Our perception isn't objective, it's highly filtered. The world is infinitely complex. We can't possibly process all of it. So we filter out almost everything, except the things that are relevant to our current goal, our current aim. We only see clearly what helps or hinders our movement towards that goal.
So if my aim is just, say, immediate pleasure, I might be completely blind to opportunities for long-term growth right in front of me.
Precisely. If your life isn't working, if you feel stuck or miserable, the deepest question isn't just what should I do, but what am I aiming at? Is my current goal, my current value structure too narrow? Is it blinding me?
And changing your aim might reveal a whole different world.
It might require sacrificing your current limited aim, which can be painful to allow a higher, more meaningful goal to emerge. And when that happens, the world can literally reorganize itself in your perception. New possibilities appear.
That connects to the idea that we need limitations, doesn't it? That becoming requires constraint.
Yes. We don't become better or stronger or more virtuous in a state of unlimited potential. We become who we are by striving against limitations.
Like the Superman example.
Exactly. Early Superman, who could basically do anything, solve any problem instantly. He became boring. There was no struggle, no becoming. A hero needs constraints, vulnerabilities, something to push against.
Kryptonite wasn't just a plot device, it gave him character.
It gave him something to overcome. And isn't that what we admire in people? Not perfection, but their courage in the face of their limitations, their resilience despite their vulnerability. That's inseparable from being human.
Trying to eliminate all risk, all limitation actually makes life less meaningful.
It denies us the very struggle that forges competence and character.
So the final nudge here isn't about waiting for things to magically get better.
No, it's about voluntarily picking up the burden. Accept the reality of being, which includes suffering and limitation. Aim high. Choose what is meaningful, not just what is easy or expedient in the moment.
Because expediency, the easy lie, just makes things worse down the road.
While meaning, found in that difficult negotiation between chaos and order, is what sustains us. And every time you choose the meaningful path, every time you act truthfully and take responsibility, you strengthen your own character.
You build a stronger soul.
A soul that won't crumble under pressure, that won't ally itself with bitterness and destruction. It's a moment-by-moment choice. Contribute to order and meaning, or add to the chaos and suffering.
And living that way, confronting tragedy with truth. That's where profound meaning lies. Enough to maybe even face death without absolute terror.
That's the ultimate promise, perhaps, that a life lived truthfully and responsibly, aimed at the highest good you can conceive, provides its own justification, its own profound meaning, even in the face of life's inherent tragedy.
That's today's breakdown. While this discussion cannot replace the book's full text, it can offer a glimpse into its teachings. I hope you found this discussion helpful, and I look forward to sharing more. Let me know what book next you want to discuss.